Everybody. So we got a couple of people in here right now. Never gone live before on YouTube, so trying to just get all the settings and stuff set up here. How's everybody doing tonight? Wednesday, hump day. All right, let's give it another like 30 seconds, see who comes in, and then we'll get down to what the updates are. Got some exciting things coming. I think that's going to better fine tune the project this year and give y'all a better experience. I just picked up MLB The Show 23 for the first time in man, maybe like 6 or 7 months. The last 2 days, and I'm playing with the old Royals franchise that I was doing a series on this channel for, and I was about 6 years in on that one and using this roster, and I think that looking back at some of the rosters and everything that teams had at that point, I everything seemed pretty stable. A little bit overrated, in some spots. Guys maybe creeping into the low 80s a little bit more than I'd like, but it is what it is. And when you're dealing with the progression system being what it is and it being so linear and not as dynamic. I'm happy about it. I was really glad at some of the changes we made last year. It seems like they worked out as expected, and I think we got some big things coming this year as well to make y'all happy. And really hope you get the most out of your franchise experiences. So, all right, let's dive into it. So, I'm just going to break down some of the changes that are coming this year in no particular order, although I will shout out a couple of the biggest changes so you guys really know what I'm focusing on the most. And then we'll get to a little bit of a Q&A at the end. So, all right, so the first thing I want to mention is we integrated WAR into our current overalls last year, and I really liked how that turned out. It kept guys from being underrated or overrated, and really kind of gave like a standardized value to have guys be kind of all on the same like level. However, one thing I didn't like about it last year is I didn't like how I was using more of the averages and the balancing. I wasn't putting as much emphasis on the recent years and the future projections as I liked. So I kind of worked that around a little bit to kind of give that a little bit better of an output. So that was one of the things that changed. And in that same manner, I also did that same integration with the project or the potential, the way I calculate potentials as well. Still keeping on that same path of keeping certain ages and a standard curve that goes off of that, because I liked how that worked out last year. A guy who's putting up a 1.5 WAR season at age 22 is going to have a lot higher of a potential than somebody putting up a 2 WAR at age 26, that type of a thing. Also, for pitchers, I made some calculation changes to how control and movement are done. So we started using Stuff Plus and Location Plus last year. That's something that actually came out after I had already solidified the system for last year. So we kind of made that up on the fly. And it was good. I made a standard curve based off of the highest and lowest points of all pitches together. So I've reworked that so each individual pitch has its own standard curve, which is better because most of the pitches are like on similar curves, but there's a couple pitches which are like drastically different. So it was necessary to have that. The other thing that I reworked a little bit was arm strength values. Felt like way too many guys had 90 plus arm strength last year. So instead of using average arm strength, we're just using top arm strength values. And that's what we're going to be using to calculate the arm strength attribute. So that helps with better normalization and not so much overrating of guys. We do have a new stat this year for outfielder arm accuracy, and that's going to be arm run value. So I'm pretty excited about that. I've been using a weird calculation the last couple of years for outfield arm accuracy, and guys would have like either terrible or like extremely good arm accuracy in the outfield. So I'm happy to get something that's a little bit more consistent, better basis of like how good guys are at holding runners and stuff like that. And it's not something that matches up exactly with arm strength. So something I really like too. So high arm strength guys don't necessarily have high arm run values. So that was pretty interesting. I also reworked the infield calculations as well because I felt like a lot of second basemen and first basemen were getting grossly overrated because they don't have any throwing errors, and that's how I was using to calculate arm accuracy. So I put a cap on those guys around like 85 ish. So they're not going to see any first basemen with like 95, 99 arm accuracy. Also, kind of rework catching like pretty much from the ground up. I mean, I did keep the same. What is it? Added strikes or whatever value it is for catcher framing. That's what it was for fielding and reaction. But there is a blocking above average value now that we can use for calculation of blocking instead of just using raw block numbers, which I think is a lot better. And then there was also, so I switched from pop time to catcher arm strength value specifically. So I feel like that highlights specifically the arm strength of the catcher because some guys like Real Muto has the fastest pop time in the majors, but he is quick with his snap, not necessarily his arm strength. So kind of switch that around. Also, there is a caught stealing above average value. So I use that for arm accuracy because again, there's some guys who aren't necessarily strongest arms, but they can put like the ball on the money. So that's kind of another nice dynamic thing that we can have in there. Also reworked outfield reaction time. I've been using outfield jump, but I was using the whole component, which is over the course of 3 seconds, and it actually includes a route component to it as well. And I feel like that starts to encroach a little bit too much on a guy's fielding necessarily. So I literally just use the actual reaction component of jump. So that changed around that curve a little bit. Feels like gives a better picture of the actual reaction component that you'll see in game. Also reworked infield reaction calculations. We don't have a reaction statistic yet for infielders yet, which kind of stinks. I wish we did. So I kind of have to do it using like fielding errors subtracted away from outs above average, whatever. So until we get that data, this is the best that we can do. Still not a terrible curve. It's not highly representative, but it's a limitation right now. Big change is going to be base running. So in the past couple of years, I've been determining base running aggressiveness based off of like stolen bases attempts per hit, and that was how I was doing that. And then I was just using stealing being that same value. So if it was like a 46 base running ag, it would be like a 46 stealing. No longer that is going to be the case. There are going to be different values almost all the time. I'm starting to use a stat that's been around for a while on Fangraphs. It's called weighted stolen bases, which actually puts into context how good guys are at stealing bases, but also how frequently they steal bases as well. So a guy who has 100% stealing percentage, but only steals like 10 bases in a season, isn't going to automatically have 99 stealing because he's never been caught. But he does get some credit. And then there's guys who steal a lot of bases, and even though they get caught because they steal so many bases, they get a better boost to their stealing. So the biggest changes we're making this year is going to be to some of the prospect calculations. So I reworked all of the hitting prospects curves for all of the skills, hitting, contact power, fielding, all of that. To better balance because I had it on a 20/80 scale, but there's very few guys who like go all the way down like even to the 30s, and nobody gets really above like a 60, 65 in any category usually. So kind of rework that to give guys a little bit more credit if they weren't just being given in a generic 50 or something like that. So that's going to create a little bit better of a balance of the skills instead of guys being too heavily overrated in the fielding categories is typically what you would see. And it's going to create some more unique archetypes instead of guys just fitting into like 3 or 4 different boxes. Also, gone are generic speed grades. We've been using the run grades as a way to generate a generic speed value, and guys would be like a 50 speed or a 67 speed and be like, it didn't work. We have home plate to first base data now, so that's all going to be input for everybody to now everybody has an actual accurate of their actual speed. On top of that, we're getting some heavy contributions from our Prospects Live contributor, Matthew Thompson. Thank you again for all your work, Matt. He's going to be doing a lot of our grades, doing some auditing there, reworking some things to provide unique insight into each prospect so we can generate more unique archetypes and guys play more how they should do on the actual field to represent that. And then finally, pitching prospects had a big rework as well. I had tried to work up a way to use pitching grades of like what their individual pitches were to try to give these guys a specific grade. And I didn't really love how the archetypes came out last year. So I tried to rework it a little bit to give better generation of the per nine attributes. So I think the way that I did it this year, we got a lot more unique generation of archetypes. Instead of guys fitting the same like two or three different molds, like high base on balls, low case per nine, or high case per nine, low base on balls. Like there's a lot more unique ways that things go about it. So I generated individual grades. So like command grade is something that's given based off of scouting prospects. But I also generated an overall arsenal grade, which is based on the pitches that guys have, how many good pitches they have. There's an arsenal and command grade, which is combining the two. There's a ground ball grade, which is from a measured value. Those are all put together in different ways and different weights to give these per nine grades, which then are used to generate a subsequent attribute value. And then finally, we got some behind the scenes quality of life changes. Just somehow the data is pulled to make things go smoother, faster, less errors, more accuracy. Also gives us more time for auditing, which allows for more finer tuning of the prospects and the players and everything like that. Which is something I think is more unique to our system. Is we split a lot more time into auditing to make sure everything looks good, instead of just letting the system go and that's it, we're done. And then we also added a couple of in-game editors. One of the guys I want to shout out is Eggplant Kitty. He helped me with my franchise to Fidelity roster project for Madden this past year. He edited it on the Xbox for me. So shout him out. He's going to be one of the guys editing with us. And we got a couple other guys as well. That should help us get the project out a little bit faster. Also going to help us spend more time auditing in-game, making sure that there's not these little mistakes that we may have missed in the past. So that's pretty much it for updates. I'm gonna open the floor right now to some questions. Got a couple of guys in here so far, so let's see what we got. Pull up the chat. Anybody got any questions? I know J Dub's in here. He don't have questions. He asks me questions all the time in Discord. Nobody? Oh, he's working on it. All right, Biscuit. This is the advantage of being in the Discord in the off season, guys. You get first dibs at something like this, so you can ask your specific questions. All right. Well, we're waiting for Biscuit to drop his question. I guess I'll ask a generic thing for you guys to drop in the chat that are here. What are some things you guys want to see? Oh, I'll wait up here. Biscuit's got, I don't know. I'm trying to think because the roster will be better than last year, but what aspects do you think will make it the best yet? Oh, for me, the easiest answer to that is going to be the updates to the prospect system. I've been trying to fine tune it the last couple of years to make it pop. I think every year it's gotten a little bit better, but it hasn't felt quite like guys are just being generically generated. From early testing right now, it looks like the guys that are being generated are a lot more unique of archetypes. And I think look and feel a little bit more like their real life counterparts. And also, everybody doesn't feel the same. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that's going to take this project to the next level this year. Good question. I think that's a good question to ask. And yeah, I mean, that's the thing I'm most excited about. Yeah, and J Dub talking right now, talking about Prospects Live, directly handle prospects as a game changer. It would be like having Bill Gates fix your computer. Yeah, having Matthew Thompson come in and really take more control over the prospects and some of the grades and stuff. For one, he could provide a lot more unique insight into all these guys because he scouts them and he knows these guys a lot better than the rest of us do. So he can provide a lot more of that nuance that's lost than when you're just reading a scouting report and just trying to put down some numbers from that. So that's a big thing that I think we're going to be getting this year is the prospects specifically. And my hope is in the future that we get more stats. It seems like there's more stats and more data that comes out every year for MLB players. Um, my hope is that we keep getting that because it helps us be um, as accurate as possible when trying to generate these guys. I'd agree because it felt like at times sometimes you got stuck and depth chart and hopefully yeah, I mean that's the hope. I think one of the things that kind of hurt um, some of the prospects last year is I feel like just because of the way that Prospects Live and other scouting services assign grades, it feels like that sometimes they're a little bit more tentative to give like higher hitting grades and power grades. So that leads to guys being maybe undervalued in the ratings are generated in the game, being undervalued with the bat. And I think that keeps guys from regressing too fast. And it ends up with guys getting stuck in the minors for longer periods of time. Or when they do get to the majors, they don't perform as well because their bats aren't good enough. So my hope is this year that that kind of gets fixed up a little bit, and we're not facing that issue as much. So what else we got here? J Dub says Statcast is coming to more MLB parks. Yeah, probably going to be more upper minors. You're looking at AAA first, then down into AA. Guys in those lower minors, we'll be lucky if we see a lot of Statcast data down there. But my hope is that in the coming future we see that. Biscuit, we don't know any franchise updates yet, so hopefully they'll greet prospects with more value than previously with updated greater trade logic they talked about in 23. I don't know, man. I mean, we haven't heard anything about franchise, so my expectations are low. I mean, we've talked about this in the Discord before. I think that we're looking at probably waiting until they move fully to next gen before we get any true updates. Um, my personal hope is that NCAA football 25, or sorry, college football 25, just destroys this summer because it'll be a little head nod to everybody to get their crap in gear because that game's been worked on for at least 3 years, I think is what has been talked about. So people will see what happens when you actually put effort into a game. The people respond. Now, granted, it's college football, so everybody wants to buy it because it hasn't been out for 10 years, 10 plus years. So that helps with sales too. Um, but my hope is that that puts pressure on some of the other places like your 2Ks, your SDS, your EAs, EA in terms of Madden, to really put a lot more effort into things. But we'll see. Um, Walkies. Nick, is there a recent update for 2023? Love your work. Thank you, Nick. We appreciate the love as always. We love having everybody in the chat just talking around. I mean, having the presence of you guys in there and having a community that we have, that's plenty of thanks for me, to be honest. I mean, I appreciate all the love and everything like that, but I just love talking baseball with people. Um, no, we do not have a recent update for 2023. People have asked the last 2 years if we could put out a midseason update. I've been hesitant to do it because it's a lot of work. We could update the old file, but it's a lot. I hate how the player movement system is from the main menu, and I'm sure SGR hates this more than anybody. But the player movement is frustrating trying to do it from the main menu. So trying to move guys between teams, also trying to keep up with all the moves. Baseball over all other sports has so many moves in season. So trying to keep up with all that it's very difficult. Trying to upgrade guys to update them overalls is difficult because how much weight do you put on into a couple of performances? And you look at last year, a guy like Matt Chapman looked like a 95 overall the first month and a half of the season, and fell off completely, which I think was expected. But so how do you assess a guy after 2 months of work by comparison to the previous 3 years of data that we use? Um, and I haven't felt like I could do the job very well. For one, I don't have the time. Um, you know, specifically for me, I'm a fourth year medical student right now, so I'm graduating in about 2 months, right? Yeah, May 10th is my graduation. Um, and I start residency July 1st. After residency, I'm working 80 hours a week. I don't have time to be jumping in and doing this stuff. So, um, possibly we could do it if we get enough guys together for the team to do it. But until I figure out a way where I feel comfortable of doing it right, I'm skeptical and hesitant to go full force at a mid-season update. So, but something we could talk about amongst our development team in the future. I know this wouldn't happen, but still would love a classic player style ratings. Sosa, 98 bonds. Figure out this is incredibly difficult, but of course. So interesting thing. I've actually been working on a classic project. I've never done it in game. I've always wanted to, and I've considered doing this for my MLB The Show series for on this channel for the season. But taking the 2012 Cubs and their entire system and rebuilding them and seeing if I can win a World Series again. So I've actually collected the data from all of their major league players and stuff like that, and tried to go forward with how would I build those players and that entire team. Now, obviously, it'd be a ton of work because I have to create 93 players from scratch, and I suck at likeness, and it takes forever. And this is why SGR is a freaking god. Um, so I've never actually gotten to do it, but yes, we could possibly offer something like that to you guys. It's actually a good segue into something I wanted to ask you guys about. But one of the things that I've had conversations with J Dub and some of our other team is how much interest would y'all have in a Patreon where we would create a service for you guys, pay different tiers, like $1, $2, something like that, where we would offer some unique features and stuff like that. So if we wanted to create a player tier or something like that, where you could request X number of players per month, that we would put that into our system and pop out a value so you could create that player in game. How much interest would you guys have in something like that? You can either drop a comment. If you're live right now, you can drop a comment on here. If you're still watching on YouTube after the fact, thank you for commenting after the fact. Drop it down there. I'm curious what y'all would think about something like that. I'm going to go take a look at these other chats. Biscuits down. I like that. Okay. Let's see. A long shot of talking to you, but is probably works, but I'll let Vider handle it. Okay. Yeah, good luck with that, man. Rotations aren't a joke. Yeah, Nick, no kidding, man. I survived M3 year. I've gotten through fourth year. My match day is 9 days. It's next Friday is where I find out where I'm going for residency. So, hey, man, love your work. Any plans to look at drafted, rated? Yes. So what I'll probably do when I hop on, in the meantime, well, like SGR is editing, or J Dub's editing, or Eggplant's editing, or somebody's editing. I'll probably do some early testing in the franchise to see what it looks like for the average potential coming out of every draft class. Typically, I would personally look for an average of like 73 potential for every person in the draft class. Um, so last year I was looking at about like 76 or 77 is what I saw as like the average potential for every class. So that's where I came up with that like average like drop of like 4 potential. However, one thing I noticed as I went on with my Royals franchise last year is that it seemed like a lot of the drafted prospects were highly underrated, and I wasn't seeing a lot of them crack it in the majors. So I need to go back and kind of look at that. I do highly suggest the -20 to the vision, because that's like almost a necessity to stay on par with the rest of the roster. So that is something you're still going to need to do. System to create. Yeah, J-Dub, I don't know why you did that. 2013 roster. That's such a random year too, bro. 2013. But yeah, you can do it if you got that much love of editing things, which I don't. RBU and his ratings seemed close to what y'all do, so that's what made me think of it. I actually don't know what RBU is. I haven't kept up with some of the other projects out there. As far as the only other projects I'm aware of for MLB The Show are obviously Full Miners, which is the reason I'm here doing this, is because it's been subpar to me for, well, forever. But that's my thing. And then Trusum. And True Sim was good. I want to give Cycloniac all the credit in the world. Um, Newfound respect for him after I did this myself the first year of what this takes. Just philosophical differences is why I embarked on this project specifically, but he does a great job as well. Biscuit, no, I don't think we'd do a per player thing. We probably would do each tier is like a maximum of this per month type of a thing. Um, I wouldn't charge you per thing. And you would get other things too. We've been talking about doing a Patreon and putting in a couple of aspects. J Dub and I both have developed MLB gambling stuff systems as well, so we might give access to those as part of the tiers and whatnot. So it's still a conversation. We haven't decided to officially do it yet. Just seeing if there's anything we wanted to do. J Dub. First year I really watched all 162 for Atlanta. Man, you got a lot of free time on your hands. You're watching all 162 baseball games. I don't think I've ever done that. I can barely catch all of my alma mater's college basketball games, let alone watch 162 baseball games. So, one other question I wanted to ask y'all who are still here. I appreciate you guys for hanging around. What are some things y'all would want to see in the Discord and the chat that you would want to see for like previews or other things that would get you guys all hyped up going into the drop of the roster? I know the last couple of years, I've done like team preview videos. When the major league teams have been done, I've gone through and broken down, okay, what are the top teams? I've shown the top 2 players from every team. Last year I did a live stream where I actually edited on the screen. I was doing the Phillies that year. And just sat there and, whoever was in the chat, jumped over, showed off some players and stuff like that. What are some things y'all would love to see as we go through this process and, get ready for drop? I like that one, J-Dub. I would actually love that one for myself. International free agents prospects. Oh, Biscuit, are you talking about that as being part of like a Patreon or? Oh, you're talking about like, so it's previews, just showing off some of those guys, new faces, old faces, new places type of thing. Yeah, that's a good thing. I like that idea. Old faces, new places, some of the international prospects. I think those are things we can definitely do with pretty easily do something like that. Just to give you guys a firsthand picture of what those guys are going to look at. Anything else? I mean, whatever you guys, are interested in, or be things we would probably be interested in doing. So maybe get 1 or 2 more suggestions, and then we'll be done. We'll be out of here. I can work as producer for the international guys. Yeah, you do that, J-Dub. You get working on those guys. Actually, I need to get working on those guys because I need to audit some of them. I was working on Shota Imanaga earlier today. I didn't finish it. I probably will go do that after we finish up here. I was looking at a scouting report because I need to work up his pitches and everything like that. We will see. Hopefully he's a stud. Yeah, he took a peek. All right. Anybody else got any suggestions of things that get you hyped for the project, previews and stuff we can throw out there? Or if anybody else has any last minute questions, I'm take another minute or 2 and then we'll get out of here. Nobody? I was drinking my water, seeing if anybody put in. Biscuit, you got nothing else? Brain surgery tutorial by you. You don't want that. You don't want that from me. I could probably put a chemo port into your subclavian. That's the only procedure that I've done by myself before. And by myself, I mean the attending watching me like a hawk while I did it. So I didn't screw up, but I did do it one time. That was awesome. But yeah, brain surgery is not going to be my field of specialty. Neurosurgeons are crazy. So, all right. Well, that's all we got. I appreciate all y'all for tuning in. Hopefully you sticked around and got enough information. I think we'll be back at some point to do some more breakdowns or give you guys some previews. So in the meantime, between time, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And I'm gone. Deuces.